Technically, I should have been halfway to Seattle, probably sweating through my button-down in some generic hotel conference room, waiting for the projector to boot up while sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup. That was the plan. Pitch the marketing strategy I'd been fine-tuning for the last 2 weeks to a startup client with more ambition than funding. The Evergreen Hotel had me booked for 2 nights. I'd even made dinner reservations at that trendy rooftop place Madison kept nudging me to try, though she wouldn't be coming. But last night, at 10:43 p.m., the CEO called. His daughter broke her arm at gymnastics. Hairline fracture, he said, but he was flying out to New York first thing. Family first. The pitch was postponed indefinitely, and my hotel reservation was voided. Just like that, 2 weeks of pressure and perfectionism evaporated. I didn't tell Madison. It wasn't about secrets. We weren't that kind of couple, at least not officially. But lately, it felt like something in our house had shifted, like gravity had changed without warning. She'd become unfamiliar. Still Madison in all the obvious ways. Same laugh, same freckles, same habit of tapping her spoon against the counter while making tea. But somehow less present. Less accessible. I couldn't put a name to it, but I felt it. So instead of driving north or even heading to the office, I made a left turn off the highway and ended up somewhere I hadn't been in over a decade. There was this old Riverside bakery on Hawthorne. It used to be a college haunt where I crammed for finals, broke up with my high school girlfriend, and once had a 3-hour debate with a philosophy major about whether cereal was technically soup. Walking in felt like stepping into a memory. The smell hit me first. Warm sugar, roasted coffee beans, and a hint of something citrusy. The floor still creaked in the same spot near the counter. The chalkboard menu had been updated with vegan options, but they still offered the blueberry muffins that used to ruin my meal plan. I ordered one, plus a coffee, black, no frills, and slid into a corner seat by the window. And there it was, that rare, quiet stillness. No Slack notifications. No pings from group chats. No dry texts from Madison asking if I'd remembered to call the plumber or pay the HOA fee. Just the low hum of indie music, a couple baristas chatting near the espresso machine, and the occasional rush of wind nudging the ivy outside the window. I watched people walk by. Students, couples, a woman dragging a curious golden retriever behind her. It was ordinary, but something about it made my throat tighten. I couldn't remember the last time I sat still and didn't feel guilty for it. Back home, things had become transactional. We still did all the things couples are supposed to do. Made grocery runs, went to family birthdays, split chores, asked about each other's day. But somewhere in the monotony, the ease that used to define us had been replaced by this performative normalcy. Like we were acting out a version of what we thought marriage should look like. Even our fights had changed. They weren't explosive or passionate anymore. Just muted, like we were too tired to even argue properly. A few weeks ago, she got upset over me forgetting to refill the Brita filter, and I remember just nodding through the whole thing, not because I agreed, but because I didn't have the energy to care. That morning, in the bakery, I realized something that made my chest ache. I didn't remember the last time Madison and I had genuinely laughed together. Not a polite chuckle. Not a "that's funny" with dead eyes. A real can't-catch-your-breath laugh. The kind we used to share when we were broke, over-caffeinated, and crammed into a 1-bedroom apartment where the oven door didn't close all the way. I pulled out my phone and stared at it. 1 missed call from my assistant. 2 unread emails. Nothing from Madison. I thought about texting her. Maybe just a morning, like I used to. But the moment passed, and I just put the phone down. Instead, I watched the muffin crumble beneath my fork and tried to recall the last time she made her weird spicy mustard sandwiches. Used to be a running joke between us, her obsession with mustard. She claimed it was the most underrated condiment in America. One time, she even brought home a jar of ghost pepper mustard and dared me to try a spoonful. I spent 10 minutes coughing into the sink while she laughed so hard she cried. Now she made kale smoothies every morning, always with AirPods in. I wasn't sure if she stopped eating mustard or just stopped eating with me. There had been signs, subtle ones. Like the way she used to leave her phone wherever, on the kitchen counter, face up on the nightstand, but now kept it clutched to her side like it held state secrets. or how her early morning jogs had become early climbing gym sessions, even though I'd never seen so much as a harness in our closet. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Wasn't that how relationships failed? When one partner got paranoid and started digging where there wasn't anything. I told myself I was imagining things. Everyone gets distant sometimes. Stress, work, life. It all adds up. Maybe she was going through something and just didn't know how to share it. But in that quiet little bakery, staring at the Willamette River as joggers breezed by in bright neon shorts, I started to wonder, what if I wasn't imagining it? What if Madison wasn't just distant, but already gone in some way? Halfway out the door, emotionally packed and waiting for the right moment to leave. The thought made my stomach twist. A few tables down, a girl about our age sat across from a guy in a beanie. She reached out and touched his face mid-sentence, like it was the most natural thing in the world. He smiled, leaned into her hand. No one else in the cafe seemed to notice, but I did. It was so small, so *mate, and so far from what Madison and I had become. I used to think we were the couple people envied, low drama, high trust, the kind of pair who grew together instead of apart. But now I wasn't sure if that was real or just a story I kept telling myself to avoid the truth. Maybe this morning was a gift. No meetings, no expectations, just space. Space to sit, to think, to breathe. And maybe, just maybe, to start being honest with myself. Because something was happening between us. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it. And the silence that morning in Portland wasn't peace. It was the kind that comes before a storm. It didn't start with a bang, it never does. You always think you'll catch infidelity like a car crash. Obvious, loud, unavoidable. But it doesn't work like that. Starts quiet, with small shifts, a change in rhythm. You tell yourself not to worry, not to be that guy. But then the pattern keeps changing, and eventually, you can't help but notice that you're dancing alone. The first thing I noticed was her phone. Madison used to leave it all over the house. Charging in the kitchen, forgotten on the bathroom counter, wedged under couch cushions. She used to complain about me texting her memes at work that she'd only see 8 hours later. Now, her phone was surgically attached to her. Always face down. Always locked. Always with her, even when she took a shower. I'm not kidding. She literally started taking it into the bathroom and playing music loud enough to drown out any sounds on a call. I tried to joke about it once. Said she must be protecting state secrets. She laughed, but it felt rehearsed. Then came the climbing. She used to hate mornings. Loathe them. She was a certified night owl. Stayed up too late watching true crime docs. Groaned every time the alarm went off. So when she started getting up at 5:45 a.m. sharp to go to a new climbing gym across town, I raised an eyebrow. I only found out because I heard the front door close one morning while I was half awake. And I checked the Nest camera. There she was, hoodie, gym bag, no goodbye. I asked her about it later. She said she was trying something new, that climbing made her feel strong. I said I'd love to go with her sometime. She hesitated, just for a second, but then said it was kind of her alone time. Fair enough. But still, that's when the name started showing up. Hunter. The first time was offhand. She was telling a story about a team project, laughing about some mishap during a photo shoot. Hunter dropped his tablet in the sink, she said, chuckling. It was like watching a slow-motion disaster. I didn't think much of it, just a coworker. Probably young. Probably clumsy. Probably not important. But then Hunter came up again. And again. And again. Every other story was Hunter this, Hunter that. He became a fixture. Her anecdotes featured him more than anyone else. Sometimes it was harmless. A joke he told. A restaurant he recommended. But once I noticed the pattern, I couldn't unsee it. He was threaded through every corner of her week. One night, I was scrolling through Instagram on the couch next to her. I tapped her story, just another photo of latte art or so I thought, and paused. There he was. Hunter. Tall, sharp jawline, annoyingly symmetrical face. Smirking with his arm around her shoulder in a group *T. She hadn't mentioned there was a team happy hour. I looked over at her, but she was focused on her own phone, typing, smiling. I made a mental note to check the tagged photos on her profile later. The next day I did. There were more pictures than I expected. Some were group sh*ts, fine. But some were less so. Him commenting with emojis. A flame. A bicep. A damn avocado for some reason. Inside jokes I wasn't a part of. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I started watching. Not like a spy. Not like a stalker. Just watching. Documenting. The way you'd watch cracks form in a ceiling. Measuring them. Seeing if they grow. She started asking fewer questions about my day. She used to care even about the boring stuff. I'd tell her about clients who couldn't make decisions or about the guy in accounting who still thought CC on an email meant cool content. She used to laugh. She used to ask follow-ups. Now, she'd nod, scroll, hum a non-committal meme, and move on. Sometimes, I'd ask her a question just to see how she'd respond. Like, do you want to go to that Thai place on Alberta this weekend? And she'd say, I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Always vague. Always floating away. Felt like we were sharing space, not life. I'd lie awake some nights staring at the ceiling while she slept next to me. Her breathing soft and steady. I used to find comfort in that rhythm. Now, it made me feel more alone than I ever thought possible. I told myself I was overreacting, paranoid, jealous, that this was all just modern relationship noise. We live online. We have work friends. We grow, evolve, shift. But something inside me, something primal, kept whispering, pay attention. Something's off. I started keeping small notes. Nothing dramatic. Just observations. Dates, times, moments that felt strange. Thursday, phone under pillow during dinner. Sunday, left for groceries. Gone for 90 minutes. Came back with one bag and no receipt. Monday, said she was at yoga. Yoga Studio's IG account showed they were closed for renovation. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't looking through her phone or following her car. I just watched, because she wasn't talking anymore. And when someone stops talking, all you have left are the details. I asked her about Hunter once, really asked. We were folding laundry, and I casually said, you and Hunter seem pretty tight. I smiled, tried to keep it light. She paused barely, then shrugged. Yeah, I guess. We've just been on a lot of the same projects lately. Then she changed the subject. Just like that. That night, she slept with her back to me. The thing is, when someone's cheating or even just entertaining the idea, they think they're being careful. They don't realize that silence screams. That distance has a weight. That you can feel a lie in the way someone says, good night. I didn't have hard proof. Not yet. But something was happening. I knew it. And the scariest part wasn't the possibility that Madison might be in love with someone else. It was the creeping realization that I might already be grieving a relationship that hadn't officially ended. That I was mourning something still technically alive. That I was already a ghost in my own home. We were supposed to go together. That was the plan. Her boss, Claire, was throwing a rooftop party to celebrate landing some new client. Madison mentioned it 2 weeks ago while reheating leftover pad thai, barely looking up from her phone. It's mostly a work thing, she said. But +1s are cool. You'll like the place. It's got string lights and a wine wall. I nodded. I liked being included, even in her work world. It was a chance to feel like we still intersected somewhere beyond rent payments and the Netflix queue. Then, the day before the party, she told me she'd be going alone. Something had come up. Claire needs me to sit in on a meeting with some investors first, she said. It's super last minute, I know. I'll just meet you there after. I hesitated. That's fine. Just text me when you're heading over. She smiled, kissed my cheek. Of course. I want you there. I remember standing in front of our bathroom mirror the next night, adjusting my collar, wondering if it was too much. I wasn't dressed like I was heading to war, but it felt like I was. Something inside me kept buzzing. Not dread exactly, but not ease either. The rooftop was in the Pearl District. Boutique loft building. You know the kind, exposed brick, Edison bulbs, open bar with too many herbs floating in the cocktails. I recognized some of her co-workers from stories she'd told. The girl with the bangs who always brought hard-boiled eggs to meetings. The guy who dressed like a thrift store mannequin. But not Madison. Not at first. It was warm out for September, and I stood near the edge of the crowd, drink in hand, pretending to enjoy the jazz band. I scanned the rooftop twice before I saw her. She was in the far corner, under one of those triangle sail shades, half lit by the pink glow of hanging lanterns, laughing, leaning in, her hand on his shoulder. Hunter. I didn't need to be introduced. I just knew. The way her body tilted toward him. The ** Macy in her posture. The way he looked at her like he was memorizing something sacred. She didn't see me, or she did and didn't care. They looked comfortable. Too comfortable. I don't remember much else. Just the blur of clinking glasses. The hum of conversation that suddenly felt too loud. I slipped away after 10 minutes. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. Walked down the stairs 2 at a time. Hit the street like it owed me something. I sat in my car, windows up, AC on full blast even though the night was cool. My fingers clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Part of me waited for her to text. 5 minutes later it came. Madison, come back. I can explain. Explain what exactly? That she looked like she belonged in his world more than mine? That her smile had more wattage in that moment with him than it had in months with me? I didn't respond. Couldn't. I just stared at the text until the screen dimmed. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was from Ben, a coworker of mine whose sister happened to be at the party. Ben. Hey man, not trying to stir the pot, but this is from tonight, right? Attached was a video, 26 seconds long. I hesitated, then hit play. The footage was shaky, taken from someone's phone behind a cluster of partygoers. Madison and Hunter stood in the same corner I'd seen them. Music playing. People chatting around them like nothing was happening. And then he reached for her waist. She didn't flinch. She leaned in. Their lips met. Not a lingering, drawn-out kiss, but confident, familiar, like this had happened before, like this wasn't new. I watched it twice, then a third time. By the fourth time, my stomach had turned into a fist. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't some heat-of-the-moment lapse in judgment. It was fluent, rehearsed, like they'd done it before and would do it again. And that was the part that shattered me more than anything else. Not the kiss, but the ease of it. The way they fit together. I sat in the parking lot for maybe half an hour after that. I don't remember thinking clearly, just flashes. Like the wedding photo in our hallway. The couch where we used to fall asleep watching old movies. The trip we took to Mendocino when we got matching sunburns. All of it suddenly felt like it belonged to a different lifetime. A different couple. I finally started the car, drove home in silence, and parked 2 blocks away. I didn't want her to hear the engine. When I walked into the house, it was quiet. She wasn't back yet. I went into the kitchen, turned on the faucet, let the water run. I stared into the sink like it had answers. My hands trembled, not with rage, but with grief. By the time she got home, I was already in bed, back turned, lights off. She didn't say anything. She slipped into the room like a shadow, quiet and careful, like I might break. Or maybe she knew she already had. She didn't touch me, didn't crawl in close like she used to. We slept on the same mattress miles apart. And somewhere, just before sleep came, I realized this wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the part where the end stopped pretending to be something else. She was already home when I walked in. I didn't expect that. I thought she'd come in late again, maybe pretend to be asleep before I got there. But no. Madison was standing in the kitchen like nothing had happened. Barefoot. Her hair in that casual bun she used to throw together on Sundays. She wore one of my old t-shirts, the one from the Joshua Tree trip, and she had a mug of tea in her hands. If you didn't know any better, you'd think she was the picture of domestic peace. "Hey," she said, her voice soft, like we hadn't just crossed a line you can't come back from. "How was work?" That question hit me in the gut. Not because it was offensive, because it was normal. Because she was pretending we were still normal. I set my keys on the counter. Didn't answer. She moved around the kitchen like it was just another evening. Cinnamon candle lit. The hum of the dishwasher in the background. I noticed a half-empty glass of wine on the counter. The red one she opens when she wants to feel cozy. The same one she used to pour when we watched movies together. Now it looked like a prop, a stage set. I leaned against the wall and just looked at her. Not like a husband, like an investigator, like someone watching a stranger reenact scenes from his former life. "You okay?" she asked, still stirring her tea. "Yeah," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. She walked over and kissed my cheek. A quick, practiced motion. Like muscle memory. I wanted to pull away. I didn't. Not because I forgave her. Not because I didn't know what she'd done. But because I needed to see her lie up close. I needed to feel it in real time. She walked off to the bedroom like everything was fine. Like we hadn't just imploded on a rooftop in front of a crowd of wine-drunk coworkers. I stayed in the kitchen. Just stood there. After a few minutes, I picked up her mug. Still warm. Her fingerprints still fresh on the handle. The tea bag tag was hanging over the side chamomile. Always chamomile when she was anxious. So yeah, she knew. She knew I saw. But she wasn't going to confess. Not unless I forced her hand. That night, I lay in bed next to her and counted the inches between our bodies. 6, maybe 7. But it felt like a continent. She slept like the guilty often do, quietly, peacefully. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything she wasn't saying. The way she kissed him. The way she texted me after, acting like a high schooler caught sneaking out. The way she came home, poured wine, lit a candle, and decided that was enough to smooth the world back over. The next morning, she made breakfast. Pancakes. She hadn't made pancakes in months. "You want some?" she asked without looking up. I nodded, sat at the counter, watched her move through the kitchen like it was a stage she'd rehearsed on. Every flip of the spatula, every forced smile. It was like watching a magician repeat an old trick, hoping no one noticed the sleight of hand. When she slid the plate in front of me, I didn't touch it. I just asked one question. "Did you see me?" She paused, just a beat too long, then said, "See you where?" "At the party." Her shoulders tensed. But she didn't stop moving. She just wiped her hands on a dish towel and shrugged. "I didn't notice you." I nodded, took a bite of pancake, chewed slowly. She didn't ask me anything after that. Didn't ask why I brought it up. Didn't ask how I felt. Because she already knew. That night she stayed out late. Said she was going to Claire's for wine and catch-up. She came home at 11:42 p.m. Didn't say a word. Just slid under the covers and faced the wall. I stared at her back. Memorized the shape of it. The curve of the shoulder blade. The way her hair spilled down the pillow. That was the moment it hit me. Not the kiss, not the rooftop, not the video. This quiet. This complete, deliberate silence. She wasn't avoiding the truth because she was ashamed. She was avoiding it because she'd already made peace with it. She was already gone. Still living here. Still sleeping in my bed. Still wearing my shirt. But gone. And I was still here, like a fool, trying to revive something that had flatlined weeks ago. The next day, I found myself staring at our bookshelf, tracing the spines of the novels we once picked out together. Travel books from the pre-pandemic dream phase. That dog-eared copy of The Alchemist she used to reread when she was overwhelmed. And I realized something. I hadn't heard her really laugh in months. Not with me anyway. Only in those damn Instagram stories. Only around him. I walked into our closet that afternoon and noticed something subtle. Her stuff was spaced out more. Gaps between hangers. Empty drawers where t-shirts used to be. She was preparing. A soft exit. She didn't need to scream or cry or confess. She was just erasing herself. One item at a time. I checked the drawer where we kept our spare keys. One was missing. The backup to her car. I checked the bathroom shelf. Her travel bag was gone. She was already in transition mode. Still smiling at me. Still sleeping next to me. But everything in her orbit said one thing. She was getting ready to leave. and she hoped I'd be too blind or too polite to notice. I wasn't looking for anything. Not really. It was a Sunday afternoon, quiet and overcast, the kind of day that used to mean movies and lazy takeout on the couch. Madison had gone out early, said she was meeting Ashley for brunch. Though she didn't even bother with the usual pretense. No makeup. No spritz of perfume. She didn't even take the umbrella, and it was drizzling. She was gone before I finished my coffee. I spent the morning half distracted, cleaning just to stay busy, straightened up the hallway, organized the drawer in the kitchen that had turned into a black hole of chargers and pens. Eventually, I ended up in the office, our shared office. Though her stuff had gradually disappeared from the shelves, that's where I found it. Madison's old tablet. An iPad, dusty and unplugged, shoved behind a stack of expired coupons and printer paper. I only pulled it out because I was curious if it still worked. I didn't expect it to open without a passcode. But it did. Her old one probably synced years ago before Face ID became the norm. I figured maybe I'd scroll through old photos, see a version of us that didn't feel so distant. Instead, I found a folder named Wellness. Inside, some yoga videos, an old Whole30 grocery list, a few PDFs on guided meditations, and one file titled ResetScript.docs. At first, I assumed it was one of her marketing projects, some rebrand initiative or client brief. I opened it out of boredom. What I saw made my blood turn to ice. It wasn't a client file. It wasn't work. It was a plan. A literal step-by-step breakdown of how to leave someone. My name wasn't mentioned, but it didn't need to be. I knew. I read the first few lines and had to sit down. Phase 1. Emotional separation. Start reducing personal conversations. Limit physical affection gradually. Avoid direct conflict. Focus on distance instead. Phase 2. Establishing independence. Spend more time with outside people. Create a routine without him. Prioritize solo plans. Don't invite unless asked. Phase 3. Creating a new life. Move clothes gradually. Set up financial autonomy. Secure housing options. Avoid using Hunter's name more than twice a week to reduce suspicion. I stared at that last line for what felt like an hour. Hunter. So it was him. And it wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't heat of the moment. It was strategy. I scrolled further. Keep phone close, create a habit. Start expressing discontent in small, vague ways. We've changed. I need space. I feel lost. Keep tone neutral. Avoid sounding like the aggressor. There were dates, timelines, projected milestones, like I was a campaign she'd been managing. I didn't feel rage right away. I felt cold. Not shocked because on some level I'd already known. But now I had confirmation. It was like catching someone rehearsing a breakup in the mirror. Except they weren't just rehearsing. They were producing it, designing it. I kept reading. I don't know why. Talking points for final conversation. This isn't about anyone else. I've been feeling this way for a long time. I respect you too much to keep pretending. Optional, mention therapy as a gesture. It was all there. A script. I closed the tablet and just sat there. No tears. No yelling. Just silence. Because the person I loved had sat down, at some point with full clarity, and typed all of that out. And then saved it. Labeled it. Filed it. Like I was a phase she needed to complete. Like I was a season of her life she was scheduling to end. I didn't confront her. Not that day. What was I going to say? Hey! I read your secret blueprint for emotionally assassinating me. Care to revise phase 3? No. I needed time. I needed to think. That night, I pretended everything was normal. She came back from brunch smelling like fresh rain and someone else's cologne. She kicked off her shoes, poured another glass of that red wine, and asked if I wanted to watch something. I said sure. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. She picked some documentary about minimalist living. The irony was suffocating. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. The way she curled into the blanket. The way she laughed too hard at something mildly funny. She was in the final stage. I knew that now. Her exit wasn't coming. It had already beg***n. and I wasn't going to stop her. But I sure as hell wasn't going to let her rewrite the story. I started building my own file. Quietly, I created a folder on my desktop, password protected. Inside it, a copy of the reset script. *TS from Instagram. The rooftop kiss video. Date-stamped observations. Subtle shifts in her language. Her absences. Everything. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. And maybe, deep down, I wanted to give her the dignity she denied me. I wasn't going to scream or beg or throw accusations. I was going to let her walk her perfectly choreographed steps. And then, when she reached the end of her script, I was going to show her the pages I'd been writing too. Not to hurt her, just to remind her that I was paying attention, that I saw her, that I always saw her. I didn't confront her. I went to Ashley instead, Madison's sister. We'd never been close, but when I showed her the file, the kiss, the reset script, she just sighed. "You're not the first," she said. Madison had done this before, same script, different man. She called it growth. That night, I sent the file to the people who still thought she was someone worth trusting. Her parents, her yoga coach, her oldest friend. I didn't add commentary. Just, "You deserve to know who she became." The next morning, she made cookies. Smiled. "You look tired," she said. I didn't answer. I no longer ate what she baked. I no longer believed in her warmth. She changed her Facebook status to "Learning to Listen to Myself." Deleted me from our albums. Posted a smiling selfie. New breath. I posted a video, her voice at the rooftop party. "If I ever leave, let it be beautiful." 2 hours later, she vanished from social media. At dinner, she said, "People talk." I said, "All right." We divorced without shouting. During mediation,